This is Nick Lewis, and this is the Raw Rebellion Show. I'm here with Areli. Did I say your name right?
Correct, Areli.
Areli. She is the plant-based pathologist, raw vegan foodist, and I reached out to her recently because I was having some struggles with my raw diet, so I needed some encouragement and coaching, and she gave me motivation and a lot of help. So she's also really well informed about raw food and has met a lot of people and has done a lot of work into staying raw herself. How long have you been raw, Areli?
I've been raw since January 1st, 2008. So I made the commitment for the new year, like kind of a resolution. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I don't think I've ever gone that long 100% raw, although I'm planning on it.
Okay.
And you're a neuropathologist. Can you explain to me what that is?
Yes. So neuropathology is basically, so just to answer your question, let me just explain to my IG viewers. I'm doing a live video on YouTube on Nick's channel, Raw Rebellion. That's your YouTube channel? Okay. So we are doing an interview. That's why I'm not looking at the camera on Instagram, but I'm answering the questions so you can hear as well. Yeah, so I'm a neuropathologist. Neuropathologist means a pathologist that specializes in the nervous system, including the central nervous system, the brain, and the spinal cord, as well as the peripheral nervous system, which includes the eye, the nerves, and the muscle. So we look under the microscope, tissues coming from those organs, and then we make diagnosis. I basically, and sadly, the diagnoses I make are cancer and neurodegenerative diseases. This is basically like the bread and butter that we have every day, for the patients that are hospitalized.
Mm. So, and is that what led you to? So, tell me how you got to veganism, how you got to raw food, how that connects with your work.
Yeah, so basically what brought me to raw food diet obviously was, I am ashamed to say this, but it was vanity reasons. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to look better. During medical school, the training is very intense, and I gained a lot of weight. I was probably 10 kilograms above my normal weight. So I just realized that I needed to lose weight. I was running, but it didn't help, especially since internship for medical school in Mexico is different. So we have like 48 hours straight without sleeping, and then have a 1-day rest. So it's ridiculous. So basically that cortisol spikes obviously makes you gain weight. And in order to survive the night shift, you have to eat a lot of stuff. So I was eating standard diet, bread, milk, cheese, meat, you name it. And I wanted to lose weight. So I asked a colleague of mine, and she said, you know what, why don't you try?
Hold on, you kind of broke up a bit. I think I lost you. Are you still with us? I think we lost her. Try inviting her again.
Basically, how was my transition?
Hey, so I don't know if you cut out quite a while there. I don't know if that showed on your end, but I lost you when you were saying that you had been eating a lot of bread and cheese and meat, and then you asked a colleague for help.
Yes. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I went from Atkins diet that I had for over a year, 2006 to 2007. I'm just trying to connect with you again because I don't see you.
I see you. You're good. Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you and I can see you. It's a little tricky, I guess, you know, the Wi-Fi, but it'll all show up.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so I was 1 year eating Atkins diet. I switched to vegetarianism from 2007 to 2013. And then from there, I realized that I wasn't getting better in terms of my acne and losing weight. I achieved a reasonable weight, but not my ideal weight. And then reading about the dairy industry. So everything, you know, is linked to one thing to another. So as soon as you realize how the environment matters, you kind of make all these switches. And I realized that veganism was the way to go. So in 2013, I made the decision to go vegan. And from 2013 to 2016, I was basically raw until 4, you know, all this kind of trendy movements that happened during the raw food movement. And yeah, and it worked fine, but I feel terrible, you know, like bloated and foggy and without energy at the end of the day because all the carbs, cooked carbs for dinner. And then 2016, I realized that, you know what, I started seeing all these people following raw food romance, Tony Raw. I used to watch Life Regenerator, you know, all these guys like the gurus of the movement. And although I wasn't entirely convinced because there is this ego behind, you know, that tells you maybe they're a little bit nut, but no offense, it's just like the way everybody thinks about this, right? And then I said, well, I started researching more about it and I realized, you know what, inflammation is caused by cooking our food. So makes sense to eat this way. So I just commit myself to do fully raw this year because that's how I feel the best, really. So that's like a summary of what happened.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That was like long for you. Like 10 years of. You said you started. It was back in 2008 when you were looking to start changing, right?
So I changed when I switched completely to veganism. Like all my skin problems cleared out because I left the dairy.
Right.
But the athletic performance and the flat stomach that I was looking for and getting rid of so many issues, like I have a lot of fluid retention, edema. As a woman, I think many women suffer from that. So you read about it, and after, you know, quitting dairy and also quitting salt and processed foods, I realized, you know what, raw is the way to go. But there is always this addiction to cooked food, even if it's just like very few processed, like just steamed potatoes or baked potatoes. You know, there is like something that hinders you from actually feeling at your best. So yeah, that's why I started seeing changes, just going fully raw. And I mean, it amazes me every day. I see changes.
You mentioned like because you mentioned the inflammation. I know like Brian Clement has said that cooked food causes what? Maybe you know the term. It's leukocytosis.
Leukocytosis.
Leukocytosis. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me
so
about that.
I read this, you know, I briefly read the abstract of this study where I think they did experiments. I don't remember if it was humans or dogs, but correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows about this. But yes, they measured their serum levels of leukocytes Leukocytes are our white blood cells. White blood cells are your main defense line within your immune system. So you have a normal range, which is basically 4,500 to 100, okay, 4,500 to 1,000, 4,500 to 100, 10,000, basically. That's your normal levels of white blood cells. Whenever you have an inflammation or an infection or something that alters your metabolism, your white blood cells go up because it's a defense mechanism. So leukocytosis leuco means white in Latin. So leuco, the white blood cells go up. Cytosis is a condition that means high white blood cells. So yeah, cooked food increases your white blood cell count. And that means that the body is reacting to something, that is damaging you. Even though it's cooked food and we are, very familiar with it, and we've been doing that all our lives, our parents and grandparents and ancestors did that. But if you also study history, you will realize that everything started from the Industrial Revolution and backwards, like when the agriculture was discovered and all that. But before, we weren't eating, cooked food. So yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that there was probably a lot less cooking happening. I'd say, even like a couple hundred years ago, I bet you that cooking was not as prevalent as it is today in terms of, well, now we have processed foods and things like that, which all have to go in the microwave or on the stovetop.
Right.
And of course, I think that as the market for processed foods increases, you're going to see the increase in our level of disease and all of that kind of thing.
Right.
So you got to veganism for looking for health, right? Correct. Mm-hmm. And then that led you to raw food. So how are these? How can we implement this in our life, like the average person? What kind of advice could you give them? Because I try and help people with raw food too, and I'd say that just start eating a few more raw things. But
yeah,
what advice would you have?
Well, I would say that you have to have your why. You have to have your why. Unfortunately, people switch to raw veganism because they're sick. That's one of the main reasons why people, seek for any other alternative modification to their lifestyle. But I guess for the normal person would be like, know your why. Do you want to lose weight? Raw food is the way to go. Do you want to heal any chronic condition? That's the way to go, raw food. It's just going back to our normal way of, or optimal way of living, optimal way of eating, optimal way of how we are designed as a human species. If you believe in God, you can see it both ways. I always say this to my family members. You can see this both ways. If you're a religious person and if you believe in, Christianity, and if you read the Bible, and if you go to the Genesis, and you read about how God put us in the Garden of Eden, and then he says in the commandments, all the fruit that grows on the trees is for you to eat. Okay, that's God's word. If you're not religious, you can look at it from the anthropological point of view and say, well, if we came from the ape, right, or any species of that, any Homo line of evolution, well, maybe we were living in the jungle, we were living in an island, and we were, looking for bananas, pineapples, papayas. It just makes sense. And then man, throughout the evolution and the history, kept moving because, looking for food, and they were originally foragers. Well, they just, moved and find food. Fruit obviously was the easiest, and then as soon as they go to the north, obviously the fruit was more scant, so they have to hunt probably or discover agriculture. But yeah, I mean, it's just we being like separating ourselves from the original source, if you want to call it that way. So going back to the source, it what's mattered the most, you know. So whatever your reason is for you, know your why. And if you just want like logical reasons, just, you know, religious or scientific, you got it there. And cooking our food, many people argue that, oh, well, you make some of the nutrients more of some nutrients, you know, need heat to be released and stuff like that. But at the same time, you're killing other thousands of nutrients at the same time. So I wouldn't compromise, you know, getting the vitality from the raw food just to get more lycopene, for example, from the tomatoes, than getting all the other vitamins and minerals and living water that is inside the tomato, for example.
Right. They pair a lot of the same stuff over and over again. If you cook the tomato, you get the lycopene. You cook the carrots, you get the beta carotene or something like. But that's really as far as it goes when you hear people talk about it. They don't really know, well, how much more of this do you get when you cook any other food?
Right.
That's not something anybody knows. It's just the science that's parroted. Now I'm reading this book right here, Becoming Raw, Brenda Davis. Highly recommend that one in case anyone hasn't checked it out yet.
Okay.
You know, yeah, it's like you said, Genesis, the Essenes talk about this. You know, it takes quite a while into the Bible before anyone mentions cooking. So, you know, that there's all of that. You had said that you did well, you told me that you did a 10-day juice feast, or was it a fast? Or tell me about that.
Yeah, so I guess it's not easy to transition into raw veganism for many people. For some people, it's pretty easy, and I'm really like envious about it because for me, it wasn't. And I've seen and I've heard from the majority of people that it's not an easy process because we are so used to the comfort of cooked food. And as soon as you go raw for some time, you just have these cravings that make you, you know, go back to cooked food. And I was in that state. As I told you, in 2016, I decided just to go mostly raw, but I always fail. I always came back to, well, maybe if I have, you know, some Asian stir-fry broccoli and things like that. And as soon as I started incorporating those things, it kind of triggers more cravings. So I just, you know, you just have to know your body. If you need to do a juice feasting, which was my case, I think I highly recommend it because that kind of resets your body. You are in this mindset that tells you, you know what, I'm not gonna do anything else other than drinking juice, but very nutrient dense juices. You know, not just fruit juice, but also vegetable juice. Obviously, fruit helps a lot. And many people argue that fruit is the way to go. Yes, fruit is great if we were in an island with optimal fruit available. But if you are in Canada, you're not going to get all the minerals that virgin soil has to, you know, grow a pineapple tree, for example. So yes, juice feasting with juices of fruits and vegetables are ideal, and that kind of resets your body and prepares you for what is coming. That gives you a rest to your digestive tract. That gives you time to your organism to eliminate the waste that is inside. When you do a juice feast, you have to do enemas because obviously you don't have fecal matter to, you know, do the proper movement. You don't have any fiber, anything inside your bowels. So you have to do enemas to help your body kind of get rid of things. So yeah, I would recommend if you are really thinking on transitioning to raw veganism, doing at least a week of juice fast or feast helps for those reasons.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm giving it a shot right now. I'm on day 7 of a juice feast.
Mhm.
I have aspirations for the John Rose protocol, which is like 90 to 100 days or something.
Wow.
But we'll see how far I get. I'm surprised they made it this far. The first week is very interesting. Tell me about some of your experiences with that.
Well, I was thinking about limiting my calories while I was using. Like, I didn't want to go over 2,500 because I knew that I would, gain weight. I was afraid of the sugar. So I was kind of limited. And then I realized, you know what, I'm hungry. So if I don't drink enough, I will just fail. And yeah, during your juice fast, you shouldn't be afraid of drinking too much juice. But the key, again, is to mix it with vegetables like high mineral, dense veggies, carrots, beets, celery, parsley, cilantro, herbs. So now just, fruit, and that's it. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at right now. I'm doing the vegetables. I find that those work best, especially keep the base carrot, maybe sweet potato, and then I like to mix in the apples and the pears a little bit in there.
Yeah.
Now I discovered this before I did the juice feast, but I just rediscovered it again today, and I was
Yeah.
wondering if something you understood. Orange peels. Do you know anything about orange peels? What's in the orange peel? Because I feel so good right now. I can't. I did like a whole bag of organic oranges with the peel on, and it does something extraordinary. Any
Yeah.
tips?
Well, I don't know specifically what are the, substances, or I don't know. You tell me about it. Probably there are some essential oils because that's where they get this from the orange, right? And the vitamin C obviously gets concentrated in the peel. So if it's organic, go for it. I wouldn't recommend using conventional fruit with all the peels and stuff because that's just, you're just eating more pesticides. So if you can afford organic, yeah. So what is in the orange peel? Have you read about it?
Um, I couldn't find anything. I found I found one video talking about, was it it starts with an L. Uh, I feel like it starts with an Lin. I'm terrible with this, but
Uh-huh.
it didn't mention anything about, psychological effects, or it just said it was good for like anti-cancer and
Oh,
all that kind
definitely. Yeah.
of,
Well,
so
yeah, yeah.
I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of plants, and to understand how truly extraordinary they really are. Um, but you do work in the medical field, so I want to find out more from you about what you've encountered in terms of speaking to colleagues and you don't have patience, do you? Do you look at
No,
research, or you
right.
stuff under the mic?
Pathology is more like behind the scenes. So we are in the lab and we receive samples and tissues from patients, but we don't see directly the patients. In terms of my colleagues, the knowledge of this lifestyle is 0 to 1, I guess, percent. All of them are conscious and aware that we should eat more fruits, more vegetables, like anybody recommends that. And everybody has this idea of portions or size, like maybe a cup of spinach, a cup of blueberries, things like that. But the idea of having fruit as your main fuel is just, I don't know, crazy for them, I would say, because honestly, if you're not sick as a doctor, you're not going to look for these answers. I wasn't sick, thankfully. I just wanted to figure, and that's how I discovered all this. And obviously, I'm kind of a skeptical myself, so I just wanted to explore it on myself, and seeing all these people, long-term raw vegans, and how they are doing, and their example is just, you don't need, for something to be considered scientifically valid and the truth, you need to have a lot of filters and a lot of control variables, and say, oh, okay, this study is going to study thousands of people over a long period of time under these circumstances, and that's the only way we can reach the truth. They call it double-blinded randomized trials, all these words that add statistical power to a study to be considered scientifically valid. So you're not going to have that, and because it doesn't exist, you will disprove everything else. So I don't think they know about it. I don't think they're interested unless they get sick and they don't get better with the standard of treatment. Like many doctors out there, I don't know if you're aware of, but this plantrition, plant-based movement within the medical community is, getting momentum. And there is a lot of switch of the mentality of doctors and many new adepts to the movement. So that's great. But still, most of them, as you may notice, promote cooked food. And I don't know, I think not all the people are the same. Some people just want to get healthier, but they're not sick. So raw veganism, I think, is for longevity and optimal health, but also for disease reversal. And people that are healthy and eat plant-based, obviously they are taking away all the things that affect our system, like processed food, animal products. But they are depriving themselves from feeling at their best. That's my opinion. So yeah, I guess within the medical community, 0% to 0.1% know about this raw vegan lifestyle and approve it because it's not studied well enough or long enough to make it valid scientifically.
Right.
I don't know if yeah.
Right. The science kind of determines whether everybody looks into something or not, right? It's that scientism. It's like science is the religion. But
Yes.
I mean, we are here and we found it, and there is, I believe, truth to it. And actually, I think there's now scientific evidence to support it. Once again, I'll just plug the book. There's and this is Dr. Greger recommended this book to me. Like, someone had mentioned T. Colin Campbell had said this is also good, but I heard about it from Dr. Greger. And
who's the author? Sorry, who's the author of that book?
It's Brenda Davis.
Okay.
She has some good talks on The Real Truth About Health. YouTube, if you want to check that out.
I will.
But, yeah, and you mentioned Gabriel Cousins. I think he's actually speaking here in Boston soon. They get rid of diabetes and type 2 diabetes, I should say, in like 3 weeks.
Okay.
So, it's. I mean, I don't know why it's not front page news. Anyway, tell me about some meals. Can you give us an idea of what you eat in a day?
Yes. So, before people doing the juice feasting, and it's just based on my experience, if you want to transition into raw, you should learn to just get used to your stomach to get distended. Because raw food is very low density in calories. So you need volume to actually satisfy your hunger. And you need the fiber and the water in the fruits to distend your stomach. So that sends signals to your brain and says, you know what, I'm satisfied. So that's one of the things that you should get used to. With 2 bananas, it's not going to make it. You need 5 or 6 bananas or more, depending on your size and activity level. So for me, I mean, I'm 5 5 feet 3 inches, which is 1.60 meters. And I weighed 105 pounds, which is 50 grams, I guess. So I'm within my normal weight and body mass index. So for that, for me, what I've discovered, I'll just put you an example. I also practice intermittent fasting. So I start eating until maybe noontime, around 11 or 12. So my first meal is gonna be after the gym or after running, a big juice, which is not fruit-based, but just a little fruit. Probably I will have carrots, ginger, apple, and greens with it. And I will add maybe a tablespoon of chia seeds, just because the chia seeds has a lot of essential fatty acids. So that gives me like sustained, I don't know, it's just like the cravings for food disappear with the juice because replenishes my minerals. And the little fruit that has in it has enough carbs to kind of, wake me up after the gym or run. So I will let it, sit for about 20, 30 minutes. And then I have my main lunch, which is fruit-based. So I had today, for example, a full cantaloupe and 4 plantains. The plantains are big bananas. I don't know if you know them, but
I love plantains.
Me too. So I had that for lunch. So I kind of satisfy my green and mineral nutrients with the juice plus the fruit, which made maybe like 800 calories in one sit, right? And then I let pass like maybe a couple of hours, and then I had like a snack, which was maybe half of a pineapple, a case of blueberries, another banana, and a full head of romaine lettuce. That was my snack, midday snack. It was around 3 p.m. And then I'm gonna have a big dinner, a big salad with healthy fats at night. So probably for tonight, I'm gonna spiralize some cucumbers, zucchini, maybe one of each. I'm gonna chop some tomatoes, maybe cherry tomatoes, maybe half of a case, or I don't know, 2 big tomato, the red one tomatoes. I'll have some raw dressing, which is, maybe some celery with onion, maybe 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds, maybe a squeezed lemon, maybe some dulce, which is a seaweed that has sodium and iodine. I will add some spices. I'll still do spices. And in my salad, I will have also probably some red peppers, probably some half or a third of an avocado, maybe more romaine lettuce for like a taco or something like that. Maybe I will buy dehydrated chips, which are considered raw. And that's it. And if I'm still hungry, probably I'll have like another banana or a couple of apples. And that's it. So I enter everything in chronometer. That way I know my calorie intake and I know how much I need, or depending on what you want. If you want to sustain weight, you just eat whatever you burn during the day. But if you want to lose weight, just let like 200 calorie deficits for your daily recommendation. So that's what I do. Basically, that's it. And I stop eating around 7 p.m.
All right. So you're practicing intermittent fasting.
Yes.
And so it's 12 to 7-hour eating window. Okay. Yeah. And it sounds like you're pretty much just doing what, 2 meals a day? That's what you just said, right? Or did
Yes. So my recommendation for my weight and height is basically around 1900 to 2100 calories. So because I want to maintain the weight that I have, I will eat around 2000 calories. So my main meal will be noontime, which is maybe close to 1000 calories. And then I had my snack of about 400 calories. And then I have my late dinner, which will have, I don't know, maybe 700, 600 calories. That's why I left my fat intake at the end, because that's what people recommend, and that's what works for me. the fat intake at the end, because fat and fruit kind of mixes up in your stomach and you don't want to get distended and gassy and all that stuff. So
Right.
yeah, leaving the fat at the end for your dinner.
Well, that's I mean, yeah, I find that when I wake up, if I'm doing raw all day long, I need to do the most like water dense fruits first. That's why you said you do the juice.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and but so I sort of do this thing where some days I'll I'll go to the gym without eating, so I'll be fasting. I've even tried to start dry fasting at the gym. I just experimenting with it. I learned that from this guy Sunchild. Go check him out if you're on Instagram, Sunchild. And then I get home and I'll be able to eat like a lot. Like I'll want a lot of food. But then I get hungry throughout the day, so I sort of just start grazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's your opinion? Like sometimes I just want to eat several meals a day, and it never seems to be enough until
throughout these months, what I've discovered is that I need to have, as you mentioned, water rich, but also calorie dense food, especially after working out, but also mineral rich food supply, because otherwise it's going to happen. The cravings just kick up and you're just looking for food and you're never satiated. So yeah, I would say probably if you can have like tropical fruits at the beginning after you work out, and at the same time when you are preparing that, kind of have your juice on one side, because that's not gonna mix that bad. The people don't recommend eating a lot of mixtures, but I would, if you don't feel satiated, I would say yes, juicing really was a game changer for me. If I don't do juicing, probably I will have a smoothie along with my main fruit meal. In that smoothie, I will add my celery and I will add my greens and probably blueberries and bananas. But I will have that maybe with 20-minute to 30-minute window from the main fruit meal. Because otherwise, yeah, it's going to be like a lot of bloating and gas. So just let the water-rich tropical fruit digest a little bit, and then just zip and kind of swallow and kind of chew the juice, the smoothie, because otherwise digestion starts in the mouth, with the saliva. So sometimes we forget that and we just drink like water, and it's not optimal.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. John Rose says, chew your juices and drink your solids. So you want to make sure that everything gets covered in the amylase that's in the saliva. And let's talk supplements real quick. Do you use any supplements?
I do, and I believe that all the raw vegans out there should supplement themselves, because, as I mentioned, if you were an islander and you were having, all this sand cover fruit and vegetables, you wouldn't need any vitamin, because you will have the sunlight, you will have the bacteria that is producing the vitamin B12 and all these things. So because we live in the city and all our fruit is important, so we have to supplement ourselves. I will basically recommend two things, like, mandatory: B12. Definitely, you don't want to get like, nerve conduction or, nervous system affections just because of your deficient of vitamin B12. So B12. And some people, for example, you that live in Massachusetts, vitamin D3, because you don't get enough sunlight. Even for me, above the equator, I guess there is a line, like after the equator, you have like different lines, in the map. So certain distance after that, or above or below, you don't have enough sunlight to produce vitamin D3. So those two. And then if you want to add, I don't know, micronutrients, and there's no harm on it. However, you can get also, like, you don't need calcium, eating this way. You don't need all these minerals that people think they are deficient on. You don't need multivitamins. I stopped eating multivitamins after, realizing that probably I will do more harm just because they can precipitate in the kidney and form rocks or stones.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard also that multivitamins, they kind of throw off your body's ability. They throw off your body's ability to regulate vitamins on its own, like from the food that you get. I don't know if there's any validity to that, but it's just what I've heard. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I haven't read much about it, but it makes sense. I mean, that's just my opinion. I haven't read about it. Some people here are asking on Instagram, what kind of vitamin B12 do I take? I do the 5,000 micrograms, which is like a soluble pill. There are sublingual varieties. There are like intramuscular, whatever works for you. I mean, it's fine. So yeah, going back to your question, I think if you kind of make like an imbalance in your hormones by adding things that probably you don't need, it definitely messes your entire, system or circuits or cycles inside your body. So we should just go back to the basis, sleeping right, waking up early, going to bed early, relatively, probably 10 p.m.
Oh man.
I mean, I'm culprit of it as well. I go to bed maybe before midnight. I'm trying to go to bed before 11, but it's difficult. But ideally, I would like to wake up, fresh and radiant at 5 a.m. and go for my run and be ready. And I used to do that before, but sometimes you get lazy and.
Oh yeah, that. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the running. Let's talk about that. You run a lot.
I do.
So how far do you run?
Well, if I have time, right now I'm not working. I'm on kind of a vacation period, but if I'm not working, I do 5 miles daily. And during the weekends, I do maybe more than 10 miles on a Sunday.
Wow. That's great. I need to get there. I recently watched the movie Full Metal Jacket, and I was watching them doing the boot camp scene and they're jogging, and I'm like, you know what? That's gonna be me someday. There's got to be like a raw vegan 80-10-10 boot camp or something.
Right? Yeah. Well, exciting. There's so many marathoners out there. I think I follow one here on Instagram, a lady from California, I guess, the Raw Outlaw. I don't know if you follow her.
Yeah, I follow her.
She's an ultra runner.
A lot, huh?
Yeah. And Tim Van Orden, I don't know if you heard about him.
Mm-mm.
He's from Vermont. Actually, you should hang out with him.
Who is he?
Tim Van Orden.
Van Orden.
Yes.
I'm gonna look him up.
Yeah.
So I do a little bit of weightlifting.
Yeah. Nothing
crazy. I don't want to take protein powders. They kind of make me sick. Overeating makes me sick. I used to pay this trainer to, like, kick my ass in the gym several days a week, make me lift incredibly heavy weight, and then I'd have to go home and stuff my face and just eat and eat and eat all day long. That was before I was vegan. Right. And I think that's probably what a lot of bodybuilders do to get big, you know what I mean? But it can't be healthy, right? It's not necessarily healthy, is it?
No, I mean, why would you put that strain on your body just to look puff. I mean, you can do work in your yard, right? And that's more natural, I guess. I don't think that hurts to be a little bit defined, but I don't think bulky is necessary. I mean, at least for me, I don't find that attractive. It's just like show off, I guess. But some people live of that. There are models that need to show a good body and that stuff, or some sports that require that, like American football. But for the average person, I guess, if you want to live like that the whole life, you have to do it daily to maintain the same mass, right? So I don't see that in a 70-year-old guy doing that.
Right. Well, and like, what if it's like a vegan bodybuilder? Do you think like vegan bodybuilders will have? I mean, I'm sure they'll have a better outcome than say like than the average carnist bodybuilder. But like, I mean, like let's take Nimai Delgado for example, and he's quite an exquisite specimen. I mean, but he eats like a lot of food, and I mean, he eats a lot of cooked food.
Yeah.
What do we think is going on there? Is that going to be detrimental to his health, like more so than if he ate a raw vegan diet?
Well, we have to consider genetics as well. So some people are naturally with a good complexion. Some people are tall. Some people have the capacity of develop muscular mass very easily, more than others. So the phenotype of Nimai, to my eye, I think he has that ability. He's naturally predisposed to gain muscular mass compared to other people that make a lot of effort and just barely get something. So I think the way he does it, I really don't know him. I really don't know how much he eats, but just to sustain that muscular mass, I think, in the long run, probably is not sustainable. I mean, I don't know how old he is. He is probably in his 20s, early 30s, not sure. But I don't know if he uses vegetable protein supplements. It's just the ratio of the macronutrients. You don't want a lot of protein.
Yeah. How does okay, so the protein with the protein powders, I haven't actually looked into how they like isolate that stuff. I'm sure they use some kind of chemical process, right, to isolate the protein.
Yeah, I haven't get into that. I haven't read about it. However, I know that some of them are made of legumes, soybeans, things like that.
Yeah.
And within the food movement or lifestyle, I don't eat that. So why I would eat and isolate from that?
Right.
I don't think it's necessary unless you want to get bulky as him, which, yeah.
Right. And that's what I often think about. I always think about the fact that people are like, well, you need to do this to be, if you want muscle or if you want to be big or whatever. But I think, well, you could say the same about like steroids. A lot of people use steroids, and they say, I need this to be, to do the work that I do. And it's like, well, you don't need to be like that. It's a vanity thing. And at the end of the day, if we simplify it down, we eat the raw food. I mean, it's for our health, it's for our happiness too.
Right.
So, I've noticed that, like, I came into this with a lot of health problems.
Everybody, don't worry about it. Yes.
Yeah. And so, like, that's what led me to the raw food. And here I am. And it has gotten better. It's gotten a lot better, I have to say. I mean, there's a reason that I'm continuing on this path. The juice feasting, the juice fasting, I don't know why I think that it's beneficial. I've seen some pretty good things happening so far, but
are you doing the enemas as well?
Okay, yeah, so I
It's
had,
gross. It's gross, but it's it's normal. I mean, we need to help our bodies.
yeah, I'm interested. I'm open. Is there a enema kit that I should be looking at, or like what do you do I go to? I'm assuming I go to a pharmacy and
Oh, okay. So you haven't done it. Yeah, you should, because otherwise, the plaque that's what people call it, plaque, but it's just, I don't know, maybe waste or fecal matter kind of stuck in. Because remember that your liver eliminates bile and toxins through the bile conduct, and that bile conduit goes into the small bowel, and then whatever you drink, that bile kind of helps digesting whatever you eat, right? So if you're not eating solid food, the bile doesn't have anything to chew, but all those toxins and bile probably can get stuck into your internal walls or your bowels. So you need to do the enemas when you're doing a use fast. So just go to the pharmacy and say, hey, where are the bag enemas or the enema bags? And then you just go to the aisle and then pick the big one. And that's everything. It's a kit. It's a kit. So you have your bag, you have like a little hook to hang it, you have a hose, and then you have a little smaller hose, which is like tiny, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 millimeters in thickness.
yeah.
And that one goes in. So you have to lubricate the end and probably the whole thing, because it's probably this length.
Oh, this sounds so much fun.
It's fun. I mean, at the beginning you have to practice, because and you have to do it carefully. I don't know if you want to talk about this on a video, but
oh no, this is exactly what the rebellion's all about.
okay.
Let's be crude and socially acceptable here, all right?
Enemas are not bad at all. They've been practiced for hundreds of years as a curative method for some conditions. And I mean, what do they do to children when they're constipated? They go to the doctor, they put like a suppositories, or things like that. Sometimes they do enemas just to, unclog everything that is in. So
of course, yeah, they talk about it, and I read the Essene Gospel of Peace.
Right.
I listened to the audiobook, but they talk about using a gourd.
Wow.
So yeah.
So that's nothing compared to what you're gonna get in the pharmacy. It's very, very ergonomical. It's uncomfortable a little bit, but you will realize with practice, you just want to do it. It feels so great.
I've been hearing a lot about coffee enemas.
No, you need water or some herbs, but coffee, I mean, some people, there are certain type of enemas and additives that you can use depending on your condition. If you just do it for detoxification and helping with your use feast, I wouldn't add coffee. That's just for people that have cancer or things like that, that's my opinion. You don't need coffee.
The no coffee enemas?
No. I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. I haven't read a lot about the side effects, but it's I don't know, a stimulant can get absorbed, because in the rectum and the colon you have the mucosa, the lining is so permeable, so it can get absorbed back. So you don't want that.
Yeah, I don't do well with caffeine, so that's why that makes sense. All right, so
there's somebody telling us here that coffee enemas are great for headaches. Must be. I mean, it depends on your condition, the herb or any other substance that you can add to the enemas. So, but for use feasting, I would say use water, warm water, and that's it.
All right, well, this is exciting.
Okay, thank you, Sasti.
You're all gonna hear about my first enema, I promise. Yeah, so, well, I mean, this has been very informative, and it's helped me a lot. I want to know more. Do you have other suggestions? Like, I know that basically eating fruit all day long and then a big salad at night is how a lot of raw foodists do it. Do you invest in any of the appliances, the dehydrator, and I don't know, food processor
Well,
and all that
I
stuff?
think I think it will make my life easier because that way probably I can prepare ahead, probably during the weekend for the week. So if I will buy something, it would be a juicer. I still don't have a juicer. I do my juices on the blender and I filter them or strain them. But a juicer would be an investment. I would buy, I mean, I have the spiralizer, the tiny one that is like a cone shape, but they're like very specialized ones that you can put like a lot of veggies and do this like, you know, I don't know, this device that spiralizes everything. So I would invest in that just to be more creative because some people think that within the raw food lifestyle, it's kind of boring. And sometimes you want to impress people if you want to invite people for dinner, things like that. So just to show some variety on your dishes, I will do that, but it's not mandatory, you know. And the dehydrator, I occasionally have crackers, dehydrated crackers, and they're very expensive. I buy I think raw veggie kale chips or something.
Hmm.
So they're $6 each, and I don't want to spend $6 every dinner, you know. So I would like to have, because sometimes if you are working and if you don't have time to prepare something, you would rather have dehydrated bananas or apples in your lunch box rather than going to the cafeteria and getting banana chips. You know, it's not the same.
Right.
So yeah, just to be prepared. And if you have a family for your children, you know, you want to get them some snacks. Some people also do like cones for the ice cream in the dehydrator. So that would be a good thing to do.
Oh, that sounds nice. With the
Right.
banana ice cream, right? Yeah.
Yes. So the Instagram is saying that we have 2 minutes left. So thank you, friends, for tuning in. I don't know if we are gonna continue on YouTube, but
Yeah.
just
Well, this is
right.
this has been very informative. We can close out, and I
Okay.
really appreciate you coming on the channel and talking about this. Like I said, Areli helped me when I was having struggles with the raw diet and was a great motivator. So go check her out on Instagram.
Yes.
And leave us some parting wisdom, if you will.
Wisdom. um, I don't know in what sense, like just to follow this lifestyle, or I don't know
Yeah.
what things we
So
need to.
I want as many people to understand why raw food. Well, okay. You know what? Okay, one thing I wanted to discuss before we leave is the
Okay.
carcinogenic thing, because I think that's something that's not discussed a lot, even by the whole food plant-based doctors. There's like things like acrylamides, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, the amylines, whatever, all those different compounds. Can you just speak
Right.
to that really quickly?
Yes. So probably I'll answer this independently later on Instagram, like what's the effect of acrylamides and cooking food and all that. So it's just 15 minutes, seconds remaining on the Instagram. So bye, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah. So I read a couple of articles that discuss this reactions. You know, the combustion of food releases all these compounds that are known to be cancer forming or cancer producing substances. So It totally makes sense. It seems like the acrylamides are contained or are produced whenever something gets like browny kind of bronze color, kind of tan color. So it can be a potato, it can be bread, it can be anything. If you are a meat eater, obviously a hot dog has like this toasted brown color. So that acrylamide is something that breaks down the DNA. I don't know exactly the mechanism. There should be like something written, what molecule interacts with which one and what enzymatic reaction happens, but it seems like it has direct effect on the DNA, and you don't want to damage, you know, the main structure that gives you life, basically. The DNA kind of programs your cells to produce anything, and if you alter that structure, you don't want that cell to develop into a cancerous cell or cancerogenous cell or mutated cell, if you want to put it that way.
Right. And there's so many things that can alter our DNA. Epigenetics, what, like, you know, the things we eat alter our epigenetics, but how much do we really know about epigenetics, considering we just found out about them long ago?
So, you know, I've came to realize that the medical field knows very little about nutrition. Also, the nutritionists know very little about nutrition, just because all these guidelines have been made based on what the, you know, the dairy industry and all that stuff puts into the economy for humans to consume. But actually, the real nutrition is just being explored. Even though we have all this technology to study the DNA, the bias of these studies, I don't know if you saw, well, probably I published something on my stories. Basically, there is an article that says that what we know currently about our DNA is just a very the tip of the iceberg, just because the focus of studying the DNA has been made on cancer research or patients. So if you're studying, you know, I don't know, breast cancer, what is the DNA structure of breast cancer? Oh, well, we find a lot of things that breast cancer has. And as a pathologist, I know that breast cancer, there are like 4 main subtypes, you know, type A, B, basal, like, and triple negative. So those terms is based on DNA studies. So we are just knowing what's going on at our DNA level. Obviously, there is a lot of science and people that actually study this know better, but in terms of epigenetic modifications, we are just finding out what that really means. And for cancer as well, people are focusing on epigenetics, methylation. I don't know if you are familiar with the DNA structure and...
you know what? I want to be. I'm going to learn more about it.
So imagine that the DNA is inside your nucleus of the cell, right? So it's a double-stranded chain of molecules joined by bridges here, nitrogen bridges between, I'm forgetting my biology, nucleotides that are here. So, and it's twisted, it's a helix. So that DNA inside the cell is very condensed, like clumped together.
Right.
To make the chromosomes. And you know that humans have 22 pair of somatic chromosomes and 1 pair of sexual chromosomes.
Okay.
So anything that alters the nucleus probably is gonna hit like a little portion of your DNA, and that has to be repaired. But the DNA is not only like this double-stranded chain, it also has a lot of little things sitting on the top of it. So let's see. Let's find my methylation thing here. So I don't know, I don't have anything. Oh yeah, okay. So methyl means a molecule that has CH4.
Yeah.
Right? So that kind of molecule, it can be anything or whatever the length it is, but if it has a methyl group, it kind of sits on that region of your DNA and silences it. So that means that if this region of your DNA is gonna code for cancer, this methylation suppresses that. And that's epigenetics, because above the genetics, above your DNA, it's not internal to the structure of the DNA.
Oh, I got you.
Protein that sits and interferes with that replication. So epigenetics is a new field, well, not new, but that studies how all these, lifestyle changes alters the gene expression. Gene expression means that whatever the DNA codes is going to be translated into a protein, into a reaction, into an enzyme, whatever, right? So if this gene is going to code for cancer, and if you're adding exercise in your lifestyle, probably there is a molecule that's going to sit here and interfere with the cancer development. If you eat blueberries, probably that's going to interfere. So as long as we have suppressors of the DNA expression or gene expression, we also have enhancers. So if you smoke, and if this segment of DNA was methylated, probably smoking is going to take that off, and it's going to produce cancer, right? So it's just a relatively new field, and we don't know exactly, like, okay, blueberries have this compound that is going to, probably they've been studying that, I don't know the name of the substance, I don't know exactly the reaction, but it's proven. It's proven that helps with, to fight cancer, broccoli, all those things.
So, and how does that relate? Well, okay, does that alter the T cells at all in terms of what you pass on to your kin?
Yes, because I'll send you an article that the epigenetics and lifestyle factors, let's just put it like a synonym. Epigenetics is like whatever happens externally, but so far we know that lifestyle affects epigenetics. So whatever lifestyle choices that your parents and grandparents did in their lives is going to be imprinted in their DNA, and you inherit that DNA from them. So that's why there are certain things that run in families, obviously, like they're like inherited hypercholesterolemia. I don't know if you know about it, high cholesterol.
Yeah.
Yeah, people have some mutations that make them predisposed to having high cholesterol, even if they are raw vegans, right? Obviously, they can help, the diet can help, but these people need some drugs or something. So, but that comes, I am assuming, from, all these mutations that pass on generations. That's a genetic condition, actually, so forget about it. That means that hypercholesterolemia has an alteration in the DNA structure, but epigenetics means probably that on the top of the hypercholesterolemia, maybe the patient has propensity to be an obese person. So the obesity is not ingrained in the genetic structure, but it's actually something that the person can do about it. So if they exercise, probably they're going to silence the predisposition to be obese.
Right.
So I mix a lot of things, but.
And with exercising, then altering your genetics, would that be something you can pass on to your children?
Yes.
If you're exercising a lot, like basically you could pass that on to them?
If you're exercising a lot, you're kind of putting all these methyl groups, or there's no only methyl groups, there are so many other molecules. But yes, you're altering your DNA structure at that level that kind of reinforces that attachment of the groups to the DNA. And that's in all your cells, not only in your muscle, it's going to be also in your sperm, which has your genetic material, and your stem cells, because your stem cells are the ones that are producing the sperm continually. So yes, they're going to be imprinted in there, and it's up to your children, if they want to take advantage of what you built for them, rather than, oh yeah, that was very healthy, but whatever, so they can actually turn it down if you are passing on good stuff. It's up to us. Even the trauma, like traumatic stress disorder that many people have, can be inherited. Like people that are running away from war, those children and grandchildren are predisposed to be like anxious or depressed or suicidal, things like that. But I strongly believe, and there are some studies that prove it, that if you are a positive person, if you have sunlight, if you have positive thoughts, and you have a community that is supportive, all those things definitely help contrasting the epigenetic inherited things that you got from your grandparents.
That's so amazing.
It's amazing. It's incredible. Like I was,
Well,
why I'm this way, and then going back to my grandmas, I realized, wow, yes, they were living in the 1910s, or grandmothers. In Mexico there was a revolution, so everybody was running away trying to survive, and it's in us sometimes.
right. That's like, we are everything we are all of the greatest achievements and mistakes of our parents. And like, I'm a big proponent of John Rose, and he talks about the mistakes, and it only takes one generation of mistakes to throw everyone, all of humanity into this sort of dark age. Now, I don't know. I don't know if you think we're in some kind of dark age. I
Yeah,
believe it's getting better, but
it's amazing how the raw foods makes you aware of so many things. Not just the raw foods, just eating vegan. It kind of awakens you and understand that we are definitely going down in terms of humanity. The quality of our humanity is going down. However, I think we need to do that. I think we need to hit the bottom and realize this is not what we want. And that's the only way that we can actually change the course of our actions, which are not great right now. But I don't know. I think, like, if people that are aware of this collectively work together, either influencing their inner circle and people like you and I, spreading this message, I think it's contagious, like the truth always permeates, always finds a way. And I think that's what the world needs. And I mean, we are damaging the whole system, the earth, the animals, everything is connected. So yeah, that's why I'm vegan. That's why I'm proponent of this movement, not just because of the health issue. Yeah, that's attractive for people. Well, let's make it attractive to people. But
yeah.
the final goal should be, the restoration of our humanity and to bring the best out of ourselves as a species.
Right. Gabriel Cousins has said that, like, it's like when you harm yourself, you are harming the earth. You know what I mean? Like, our skin is the topsoil. Our blood is the rivers, and we it's like, once we can, I hear people like talk about oneness and everything, but it's like, these are people that are doing a lot of harm to themselves, and it's like, well, we're all one, then please stop smoking that cigarette. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I'm here. But I think that was definitely some good parting wisdom. The genetic information was incredible.
Awesome.
I want to get more into that myself. I want to go to school for that kind of thing. I really want to learn how to help people, and how to listen to people and help
Right.
people. I need to learn both. Sometimes I have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's an interesting journey. We came from the jungle. I really believe that. I believe that we came from the jungle, and if you look at the primates, they all live in the jungle. So, but yeah, hopefully we'll have another interview at some point.
Yeah, I'm up for it. Definitely. We should try someday.
And this has been informative. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Thank you for inviting me. This is actually my first interview, and I hope to, you know, after this kind of get momentum and start producing more videos. Thank you for the invitation and inspiration, because you're doing great. I mean, even if it's like a little thing, you don't know these videos are gonna be played, and you know, in the future.
Hey, you know, it's something. I do this. I do this for everyone, and but a lot for me, because I'll probably go back and look at it, and I'm sure I'll catch things, you know, that you said that I didn't catch this time. That's just the way I am. But you know, that's why this is the Raw Rebellion show, because you know, sometimes things are a little disorganized, but it's organized chaos. You know.
Okay. Makes sense. I got you. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Areli.
You're welcome.
And everybody go check out her Instagram. Hopefully you'll have a YouTube channel someday.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm still thinking about the name. I wanted something catchy, but at the same time, more like medically informative rather than just another raw vegan channel, because I think that's what people need. Unfortunately, you know, you don't need a medical degree to understand this. It's just doing your research, getting knowledgeable about things. But having this medical background, I think, is very strong, and I should take advantage of it. So I'm still thinking of a name. So once I get a name, and probably the first theme for my first video or set of videos, I'll upload something. If you have an idea or a suggestion, let me know.
Well, I'll watch and like every one of your videos.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you'll see me in the comments section.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll be doing this again in the future, like I said.
Looking forward to it. All right.
This is the Raw Rebellion signing out. Areli, go check out her Instagram. The Raw Plant-Based Pathologist.
Plant-based pathologist. Raw.eli.k. It's complicated.
Raw.eli.k. Okay. Cool. Thanks. We'll see you.
Thanks, Nick. Have a good one. Thank you.
So long.